Hey guys, Golf Nerd here. It's been a while since I posted, but I wanted to make sure that I highlighted what I consider to be probably the best deal on a new driver in 2023. Now, I think we can all agree that the prices on new drivers have just gotten just crazy expensive, right? I mean, the lower end brands are around $450, $500 now, and the higher end for just something off the shelf is as much as $650. So the driver I want to bring to your attention is actually a 2022 model, but there's still some inventory out there, and I want to tell you why you should strongly consider buying this driver if it fits your particular needs, because the cost is around $200, and that's for a brand new driver. And I'm here to tell you, if it does suit your particular needs, it's a fantastic bargain. So I wanted to make a video just to highlight this as an opportunity for everybody to get their hands on a driver that I think could really be helpful for a lot of different golfers. Before I begin talking about the specific driver, I just want you to know I have no financial stake in this video at all. So I don't have any connections to any of the links that I put below for the vendors that are providing this driver right now. And I don't have any affiliations with the brand either. You know, I'm kind of a small YouTube channel, and trust me, this brand is not reaching out to me and asking me to do videos on their former product. So this is definitely really just like a public service announcement. So the driver that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention is this guy right here, and it's the Mizuno STZ 220. Now, if you haven't heard about this, last year there's a number of reviews on YouTube already, and I would encourage you, if you find this video interesting and you think this may be a good fit for you, to go check out those reviews, because they're all pretty similar in terms of their comments about what they liked and disliked about the driver. But the overall theme with this driver is, first and foremost, this is a very, very forgiving driver. So I would put this easily on par with like a Ping 425, except it sounds a hell of a lot better, and it looks better in my opinion. Now, I know looks are subjective and sound is subjective, but I think generally speaking there's a lot of folks that agree that the 425 is not their favorite sounding driver, and this one I found to be very kind of neutral. I don't think it's going to have a strong opinion one way or the other. I think it sounds pretty great. But you know, sound is obviously a subjective thing, but it certainly doesn't have that high tinny kind of all titanium head sound that the 425 does. But it does have 425 levels of forgiveness. That's one of the main reasons why I think this is such a great driver for a lot of different golfers. Now, with that though, the reason this may not be a great driver for everyone is a couple reasons. First off, this driver has a 20 gram weight all the way in the back, and it's back and low. And because it's back and low, it's going to have a really high MOI. It's going to be really forgiving. But what it's also going to do is it's going to increase launch, and it's going to increase backspin. That was part of the reason why I was interested in this. I have some swing faults where I tend to deliver too much on an upswing when I'm hitting the ball, and as a result, it's not unusual for me to get up to 6-8 degrees of upward angle of attack on a driver, and because of that, I can knock a lot of spin off a ball very quickly, and it's not a great thing given my swing speed. It gets way too low spin. It'll either drop out of the sky, or if I put any side curve on it, because there's so little backspin, that ball will just veer off left or right really, really easily. So a driver head that provides some more backspin is a great situation for me, because I need a little bit more spin. I'm not a particularly high speed player, and also because I have a tendency to want to overhook the ball. A little bit more backspin makes the ball flight a little bit more stable. So I would say that on average, this driver is probably going to be around like 200 to 500 RPMs more than your Callaways or maybe your TaylorMade, something like that. Now the Ping 430, that's a slightly higher spinning head as well. So this may be more similar to that. And if you've seen any of the reviews about the 430 this year, people are talking about just how stable the ball flight is. And part of that is because it does increase the backspin a little bit, and that increased backspin is a contributing factor to forgiveness and a repeatable ball flight. So that's one concern or benefit, depending on where you're coming from. The other concern is because that 20 grams is all the way back and low on the head relative to the face, this driver is going to launch pretty high. Now, I actually ended up buying two of these. I bought a 10.5 degree and I bought a 9.5 degree. The head has adjustments that can let you go up and down 2 degrees of loft. But when I took the 10.5, which is the one I started with a regular flex shaft that was more of a higher launching shaft, because I wasn't sure how much spin I was going to get, what I found was the launch angle was like 2 degrees higher than I wanted, even when I lowered it down all the way. So I had it a 10.5 degree head set at 8.5 degrees, which is, a really low loft, especially given my swing speed. But it was still launching like 18 to 19 degrees, which is several degrees higher than what's optimum for my particular trajectory. So I ended up buying a 9.5 and turning it down to 7.5, and that got me closer, but it's still a really high launching head. So if you have a high launching ball flight, then this driver head is probably not going to be a good fit for you. However, if you have a low flight and you want to add some launch, this is going to be an excellent option for you. So just to summarize, the main points of this head are: one, it's extremely forgiving. In fact, my Golf Spy in last year's rankings rated this as the most forgiving head they measured in their group test. And the reason they said it was most forgiving was because the delta from the longest to the shortest hits on good hits was really narrow. So, and I've seen the same thing. I've had this out on the golf course. I've had it here in the sim. And on miss hits, like right now I'm struggling with a bit of a high heel hit. And those high heel hits are still hitting fairway, and I'm losing like 5 to 10 yards off of my better hits. So the face is just super, super consistent, and that's what my Golf Spy reported as well. So I would definitely say that that's a proven fact at this point, that this driver is just a really forgiving face. But again, it's going to raise your spin. So if you're a lower spin player and you're trying to add some spin, this might be a really, really good option for you. However, if you're a high spinning player, like you're hitting down on it, or you just generate a lot of spin, then this head will not be a great direction for you. There's some other options that would work better for you. And finally, again, the launch on this head is extremely high. So if you have a low launch and you want to add some, great option. If you have a high launch and you're wanting to take some off, this is a terrible option. But for $200 and for a really, really forgiving driver, basically ping type driver, I just think it's a fantastic deal. So what I will do is I will put in the links, or I'll put links in the description below for a couple of different vendors that are selling this. I bought it from Carlsgolfland, and I love dealing with Carl's. This is not an ad for them, but I think they run a really tight business. But I also saw a couple other options as well, and I'll put those in the description, so if you're interested, you can at least pursue it. The other thing that I really, really like about Mizuno's approach is the shafts that you get in a Mizuno driver are the real deal shafts. These are not made for shafts. This is a 10C blue. I went with two different types of shafts to see if I could influence that launch angle. I went with an Aldila Ascent in regular flex, and then I went with this 10C blue in a stiff flex to see if I could get that ball flight a little bit lower. I will say that in both cases, the head, because it's such a high launching head with that weight low and back, overrode really the differences in the shaft. I mean, I'm getting with this at 7.5 degrees of launch or of loft, which is crazy, and a stiff shaft. I'm just now getting it low enough to where it's in the ball flight region that I want. But the shaft really doesn't make that big of a difference with this particular head just because it wants to launch so high. But back to the Mizuno piece, when you buy one of these drivers, depending on what stock is still available when you look into this, these shafts are going to be real deal shafts. So like my Aldila Ascent shaft, that is a real $250 driver shaft, and I mean I got it for $200. So just a fantastic deal. The other thing that I really like is they've got these multi-compound lambkin grips on them. I really like these grips. It's not my personal favorite. It's not what I would put on a club, but I like them a lot better than your standard Tour Velvet. So another just commitment from Mizuno to provide really high quality products on these drivers. So just another point about why these are such great deals. The last thing I'll mention is not only does this loft sleeve, which I really like the loft sleeve because it's really minimal. It's not one of these big loft sleeves, but it does offer up to ±2 degrees of loft change. And you can also change the lie angle. You can go more upright or more flat, which is really cool if you're trying to fight a specific ball flight miss. You've got some more adjustments there. So just a really quality product. The head cover is really nice too. The feel off this driver, let me just say, I'll touch on that real quick as well. I think Mizuno, they know that they have a great reputation when it comes to irons. And I tried I want to say it was the original STZ, and I didn't particularly care for how that driver felt. It might have been the ST200. It felt really firm. This driver does not at all. It's a real soft feel. It's almost as if Mizuno specifically was trying to build a driver that was similar to the reputation they've earned with their irons. This driver feels great. I mean, really, really good. So the sound is good. The feel is really good. And I think at address, it looks really sharp as well. The other videos that you can find on YouTube will show you more close-ups, but it's all blacked out through here, kind of a reverse M2 or M1 from TaylorMade a few years ago. So you've got a really thick black band, and then you got the carbon showing up the rest of the way back. And it's not much of a gradient. It's basically black and then light gray through the top of the head. But it's an attractive driver. It sits really well. It sits slightly open at neutral at the standard loft. Obviously, I've lowered it down and it opens up the face a little bit, which I like because I have a tendency to overhook a ball. But look, feel, sound is great. No issues there. Real deal shaft, better grip, $200. Worth a shot if you're looking for a very forgiving driver at a great price. But don't wait around because there's not that much stock available, especially if you're a little bit more picky about what shaft you have. But the head alone, for me, is worth the $200, and the shaft is just, you could always flip a shaft, buy something on the aftermarket, and put an aftermarket shaft in it. The other thing that's interesting, and I'm sorry I'm going on so long here, but the playing length on this particular club is 45 inches, which I think is really great, and may be why when it's being compared to some of the competition and head-to-head competitions on YouTube, it's coming up a little short because it's 3/4 of an inch shorter than the off-the-rack drivers from TaylorMade, Callaway, Pang, etc. But for me, I think it makes sense that most amateurs play a slightly shorter driver, gives them a little bit more control. So that 45-inch length, I think, is a great compromise of not going too short, still getting some club head speed, but getting maybe just a little bit more control. So anyway, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I always get back to everybody. If you like this video, hit the like button. I'd certainly appreciate that. And if you haven't yet subscribed, love to have you. Enjoy the Masters. Man, I'm so excited. It's Masters week. Great time. I'd love to hear what your picks are too, so say it down in the comment below. I'm thinking Scheffler's probably everybody's favorite at this point because he's playing so well. But I'm kind of pulling for Rory. I'd love to see him finally get that final piece and get all 4 of the majors. So that's my hope. I don't know that that's my pick, but it's definitely my hope, and I'd like to hear what your thoughts are about the Masters. So enjoy Masters week, everybody. and we'll talk again real soon. Hit them long and straight, and I'll see you next time.